So indeed, as you said, I am the deputy coordinator of this Fire Rest project, which full title is Innovative Technologies and Socio-Ecological Economic Solutions for Fire Resilient Territories in Europe. I am based here at the Forest Science and Technology Center of Catalonia, who is the coordinator of this project. And before going to the presenting you the project, I just wanted to thanks MAIA Projects for the chance of presenting this project in this webinar. So Fire Res, it's dealing with wildfires, but we are actually focusing on those which are categorized as extreme wildfire. And those are the ones that do the continuity of fuel with the propagation speed of those fires. The cross-urban forest interfaces risks the simultaneity of fires, and especially because of the pyrocumulus that this kind of fires create, they have a very different behavior of any other fires. And that's the reason why they are becoming a major environmental, economic, and social threat, not only in these Mediterranean countries where we are more used on wildfires, but also in other regions or like Central North Europe or other regions across the world that are not that much used on wildfires. The aim of Fire Res is to implement an integrated fire management approach, which includes social, economic, cultural, and ecological dimensions in order to contribute to achieve a resilient landscape, but also communities in Europe and beyond. Fire Res is a 4-year project. Now we are getting close to the equator of the project. It is it has been financed under the Green Deal call, under this H2020 Horizon Europe call. It is an innovation action. It has a budget above 21 million euros. So we are speaking about one of the biggest European funded wildfire-related projects, and it involves 34 beneficiaries. Fire Res has 4 specific objectives. The first one is to set the definition of what we understand by extreme wildfire event. So we identified some indicators that we can measure to classify fires under this category of extreme wildfire events. And we'll use this concept along the whole life of the project. The second specific objective is to develop, demonstrate, and deploy 34 innovations at different levels. And this includes technological, social, healthy, safety, administrative, and also ecological and economic levels. The third objective is to integrate and upscale the results from the niche level innovations implemented locally at living labs. We have a total of 11 living labs across Europe and also beyond. And then the fourth objective, which is also very important, is to raise societal awareness about what are the extreme wildfires, their risks, and transfer this knowledge to the key stakeholders. And that includes society in general, but also public administrations, firefighters, technological companies, also actually very much in line with the target audience that MAIA project has. I will skip this slide because we don't have so much time. The prevention and preparedness, the detection and response, and the restoration and adaptation. Although the 34 innovation actions that Fire Res has in it, which are like 34 small projects somehow, they might be focusing one of those phases. At the end, we always take into account the 3 of them. For example, if we are defining innovative restoration strategies after a wildfire, these strategies includes take into account the prevention phase. For example, those strategies consider having heterogeneity in the forest structure, either vertical or structural structure, so they difficult the progression and the growing of these wildfires, but also consider important issues like the road network, or having some plots with a very low fuel loads, so firefighters can access to these new forests and can fight these fires from these safety conditions. And these 34 innovation actions are implemented on a set of 11 living labs. As you can see here in the map, they are distributed around Europe. So we have quite some in this southern Europe, where these regions which are more used to these wildfires, but we also have living labs across Central and also North Europe. We are also very happy to have this outermost living lab in Canary Islands, and also this one outside Europe in Chile, which is a region that's suffer regularly about these wildfires, and some of these extreme wildfires already took place. In all of these living labs, we are creating a community of stakeholders that we call community of wildfire innovators, where they are composed for these 4 helix of innovation stakeholders, as you can see here, the list. And the objective of these communities is to identify what are the local challenges, identify what are their targets for 2030 regarding resilient landscapes in front of wildfires, and then define and identifying the needs and the gaps they have at local level, and which is the steps that they need to go through in order to achieve this objective at 2030. I think I don't have much more time, so maybe I just very briefly, here we use this figure to explain a bit, give some examples of the innovation actions that we are deploying. But very shortly, I just mentioned that maybe we are implement or installing some sensors in the equipment of firefighters to monitor the exposure to air pollutants. We are developing and using some Earth observation tools like LiDAR or satellites. So we are developing some kind of drones to monitor at real time the state of the forest, also the progression of fires, the early detection of fires. We are also doing some training for firefighters. We are working also with these trainings, implementing the use of prescribed burns and some others, but I will not go very much into detail. And since I believe I'm getting close to the 10 minutes I have, I will skip all these slides and I just will end my presentation giving you an overview of the partners that are involved in this fire rest project. And as in our community of local stakeholders know the living labs, the project consortium includes a big variety of stakeholders, including relevant academic partners such as CTFC, INDRAE, VTT, for example. But we also have within the consortium public administrations like the Gobierno of Canarias, the Junta de Galicia. Very important, we also have private companies. You can see here some examples like Spire, Airbus, or Tecnosilva. And very important is also having within the consortium firefighters. Here we see, for example, the Catalan firefighters, the Escola Nacional de Bombeiros in Portugal, or CONAF in Chile. And this is all what I wanted to tell you. So thank you for your attention. And if you want more information, you can access the website or contact me through my email. Thank you very much.
We've developed a technology that really works in that restoration phase. So yeah, let me start by giving you a little bit of background on GROASIS. The company was founded 20 years ago by my father, Pieter Hof, who had a vision to make 2 billion hectares of degraded land productive again in order to eradicate hunger, reduce water scarcity, fight climate change, and increase biodiversity. So the original objective of founding the company was not really directly linked to wildfires, but obviously our technology can be very well used to restore an area that has been damaged by wildfires. 20 years ago, my father set out with this idea of developing a technology to plant trees, bushes, and also even vegetables on degraded land without irrigation. And here you can see a photo of him with a number of different generations of our product. We currently have the 10th generation of our reusable water box, which is the product you see here. And we are in the 5th generation of our biodegradable grow box plant cocoon. In addition to a lot of other technologies which help scale up the actions of restoring that degraded land and mechanize some of that process. So you can see here we developed a capillary drill which you can use to make perfect planting holes. We've developed a product that builds mini terraces in order to stimulate the entry of water in case it does rain. And then finally, we've got a plant protector that protects the small plants from animals, but also from harsh sun and wind and other conditions. So I'm presenting here because our technology was developed with the help of the EU LIFE funds. Several years ago, back in 2016, we developed a new generation of the grow box and a new generation of the water box. We planted about 600,000 trees across Spain in many different locations. But then sadly, my father passed away in 2021, and that's why I took over the business. The core of our technology is the product you see here. We call it a plant cocoon, and as I said, we've got 2 versions of that plant cocoon. We've got the water box, which you can reuse for up to 10 years. Let me see if this is better.
Yes, let's try.
So the tree is planted in the soil. The water box is placed around it and filled with water at planting. And in 90% of the cases, you never have to water that tree again. Because if it does rain, the water box will capture that rain. Every night, the water box will generate condensation, and feed that into the reservoir. And then it very slowly releases water to the young tree. And it actually only releases so much water to ensure that the tree doesn't die. However, the tree doesn't get a lot of water. So instinctively, it knows that it will have to develop a very strong root system. And after a year, in most locations, those roots are 3 meters deep, where they find capillary water. And then they can survive. So that is the moment to lift off the water box and use it to plant the next set of trees. Really, the sweet spot for our technology are areas where you've got less than 500 millimeters of rain, or areas where the rainfall is concentrated in, let's say, 1 to 3 months a year, and then you've got up to 11 months of drought. So far our technology is mainly applied in Southern Europe, in Africa, in the Middle East, and then in Latin America. Actually, here you can see a nice map of the world. We've got 56 blue countries here. So over the last 20 years, the technology has been used in all these countries. I've got a couple of photos from various different projects. This is a project, a demonstration project in Algeria, in Tlemcen, where they planted carob trees. They planted a number of trees with traditional irrigation. So a guy just went there with a jerry can and gave those trees some water. And in spite of doing that every week, the survival rate was only 4%. We measured the amount of water that he gave with the jerry can. We then had a couple of rows of trees that were planted with drip irrigation. Survival rate was quite significantly up to 25%, water consumption 35% down. And normally we would say that drip irrigation, therefore, is a fantastic technology. However, if we compare that to the trees that were planted with a water box, we see a survival rate of 100% and only 10% of the amount of water was used compared to the traditional irrigation. Again, 1/6 of the drip irrigation amount of water. So this was a great success. These plants have only 6 meters rain and temperature was 46 degrees, so quite difficult conditions. Here you see a project in Ecuador on the main photo, and in the small photo you see some trees that were planted in the Sahara Desert in Morocco. And again, none of these trees have been receiving any irrigation beyond the original water gift when we planted them. And you can see even in the Sahara Desert, they're growing quite well. In Saudi Arabia, we're planting trees for carbon offsetting and to support the greening initiatives in Saudi Arabia. Here you can clearly see how the water boxes have been reused to plant a second set of trees. And if we look in a little bit more detail, this is 2021, first generation planting, second generation planting. A year later, as you can see, those trees have grown quite healthily. And this is a project for actually one of the oil companies there. But it's not just used for ecosystem restoration. In Napa Valley in California, we've got people planting vines with water boxes. And the idea being that on the one hand, of course, you've now got governments that are trying to limit the amount of irrigation that farmers are allowed to use. On the other hand, there is a general thinking that if the roots of these vines grow deeper, they will find more minerals and you get better quality wine. Beyond an increased survival rate and beyond a strong reduction in the amount of water that you need, we also see increased growth rates. And there are several scientific reports available on our website from China, from Europe, from Chile as well, where people conclude that the growth speed of the trees increases between 30 and 300%. And as you can see here, this tree has grown in just over a year from a tiny sapling that was planted to a very serious tree. We've got some more photos of ecosystem restoration projects in China, in Jordan, in Colombia, in Ecuador, on the Galapagos Islands. Basically, the technology has been used and proven extensively around the world. And I'm therefore confident that if it were applied at big scale in Europe, and we know that Southern European countries are now suffering from droughts as well, we are able to restore all that land that has been damaged by wildfires without significant water requirements in it. I came across these photos from a little project that was planted just outside Athens, where the young trees were planted in May, and then sadly a month later a wildfire affected the area, as you can see here on this Copernicus photo. And fortunately, the wildfire did not affect any of our products. Actually, even the small oaks that were planted inside the water boxes stayed alive. And that is probably because of the isolating factor of the cold water that sits inside the water boxes. That, of course, also during the day provides the perfect microclimate for these little trees because it's cold still from the night before. And at night, the water is slightly warm. Again, it provides the perfect microclimate. And that's one of the reasons why you see the increased growth speed. And that's probably also one of the reasons why these trees were not affected by the wildfire. So I've got a question for all you people with green fingers on the call today. How many cherry tomatoes do you think that you can harvest if you plant just one water box with one cherry tomato plant on your in your vegetable plot in your garden? The answer is a whopping 4,300. We've got this customer in California who, as you can see here, planted a very nice Juliet cherry tomato. There was a rodent that stole a few, so he caught it and released it somewhere else. But he basically fed his whole apartment block with cherry tomatoes. So next steps, as I said before, our technology requires 90% less water. I am actually seeing right now in Spain that planting projects are being put on hold because of limitations of water availability. But also farmers are being told they need to limit the amount of water from their wells. With our technology, you don't need any irrigation, and as such, you can scale up your projects very quickly. Our technology year-round planting to better plan your reforestation and your restoration efforts and to use your resources much better because you're no longer limited to planting just spring and autumn. You can actually plant through the summer and even through the winter. I spoke about faster growth speed and obviously that has consequences for the speed at which you can increase the biodiversity of your project. And I invite you to visit our web shop, www.waterbox.com, to buy a 3, 5 or 10 pack and give it a try for yourself. Thank you for your attention. I look forward to hearing your questions.
Thank you for inviting us. So today I will be sharing some information about the TREEADS project. This is a project that is covering a holistic fire management ecosystem for prevention, detection, and restoration of environmental disasters. See here? There we go. So today I will first give you an overview of the whole project, and then I will give you an example from one of our pilot cases. So the project started a year and a half ago, and we have a funding for 20 million euro, and we are within the Green Deal. The consortium consists of 14 European countries and Taiwan. We are quite a large consortium of 47 partners. And we consist of SMEs, universities, research centers, industries, end users, and also public bodies, NGOs, and LEAs. The pilot sites are Norway, Germany, Austria, Romania, Italy, Greece, Spain, and Taiwan. And here you can see an overview of the focus area of the different pilot sites. And within the TREEADS concept, we develop technologies and innovations that cover all three phases of a wildfire. So both prevention and preparedness, detection and response, and restoration and adaptation. And all of these technologies and innovations will come together in the TREEADS Holistic Fire Management platform. So I will give you some examples of our 26 technologies that are being developed. So in the prevention and preparedness phase, we utilize social media and simulators and forest mappings to develop the fire daily forecasting and early warning system, to work on fire risk analysis, and also develop fire resilient materials. Here you can see an example from these online platforms being developed. In the detection and response phase, we have a focus on having coverage on multiple altitudes, from very high up in the sky way down to low altitude drones, to get the best possible monitoring of the situation when there's an ongoing wildfire. We also focus on hotspot detection, object recognition, and we have a training platform in development that, among other things, utilizes newly developed further developed AR helmets. Within the restoration and adaptation phase, we are working on a uniform cooperation framework that will allow different stakeholders to collaborate together and figure out what is needed. We're working on burnt scar modeling to see where the biggest needs are. And we are also working on seed container capsules that has some of the same purposes as the last speaker's presentation. So this is to contain seeds and soil and have it planted into the ground. And then I will give you an example from one of our pilots, the Norwegian pilot, of which I am also the leader. So this pilot focuses on wildfires in Northern Europe. What we know is that wildfires are moving north and they are getting more and more intense, also north here in the northern part of Europe. However, our landscape and vegetation and terrain and climatic conditions are quite different from many other areas where we already have a lot of documentation on wildfires, such as the Mediterranean, Australia, and California. So what we are working on is to try to characterize our types of wildfires. And here you can see some of my colleagues in the field. We are also working on identifying logistics needs that the emergency services have during an incident and before an incident. So this can include anything from extinguishing apparatuses, equipment, to where is the nearest pizza place in case of an incident. so that everything can be collected in a repository and easily available during an incident as a tool. And we have a specific focus in the Norwegian pilot on the wildland-urban interface areas and how we can prevent wildfires from spreading to man-made structures, such as wooden buildings, which we have a lot of in the Nordics, and also other types of infrastructure. Here you can see an example from a power grid line. So here we collect information from field work, and then we take it into the lab and we develop test methods to document the fire protection abilities of different products. And this is just some example pictures from one of our field works. Here you can see ignition of different burn areas. And to the right, you can see the forest fire helicopter, which normally extinguishes fire. But for the purpose of the field work, it is actually working as a ignition assistant to blow some wind on the burn zone. And yeah, we are very many different partners involved in the TREEADS project. And here's an example of the team that was working on this specific field exercise. Yeah, so any questions you have are very welcome.